I'm Ilija Toma, and behind me is a very special car. It's an Alpina. For many years, Alpina cars have been produced only in a couple of hundreds units per each model. It has always been something very rare to own and even to do a test drive with. And there was always something really special about Alpina and its performance. The combination of blue or green exterior colors, the combination of interior colors, the grace Alpina models emanated, and yet they always inspired performance. That's why classic Alpina models can sell with tens of thousands of dollars and even six-digit numbers, although they can have a huge mileage. It was probably the most special and sophisticated car to own, derived from BMW. And that may change. You see, in 2022 BMW bought Alpina entirely, and the Bob-incipients, the founding family of Alpina, are still at the reins for a couple of years, but in perspective, Alpina may just become a subsidiary of BMW. Well, this car was developed when Alpina was still an independent company and facelifted during BMW ownership. It's an Alpina XB7 based on the BMW X7, of course, the facelifted one with different headlights and different grille. Depending on the country you are watching from and taxation, this car costs about $200,000 or euros. Actually, this one costs 225,000 euros here. So it plays in a league of Mercedes-Maybach GLS and even somewhere between Maybach and Rolls-Royce Cullinan. I've tested GLS earlier, and I also tested Rolls-Royce Cullinan a few years ago, so inevitably I would also refer to them on key points of this Alpina. But most of all, I'm seeking for emotions in an Alpina. It's that type of car that is supposed to overwhelm you, to make you effervescently want it, love it, effectively not being able to sleep at nights until you buy it. And then no other rational comparison has any power to convince you in any other decision other than buying it. Will I find that emotion today in this Alpina? Well, let's see. Does it have the same grace and sumptuous presence you would expect from an Alpina model? Actually, it does, except for the wheels, which are not standard Alpina wheels here because of the winter tires. So we have to put a picture here on the video with its wheels, which came from Alpina. Sorry, but we couldn't find the proper winter tires for that dimension, that size. So which wheels do you like more, the Alpina ones or these ones? Let me know in the comments below. So you cannot miss it on the street, but there is no kitsch here. There is no bicolor golden shades like you see in a Mercedes-Maybach, for example. You just don't see that abundance of chrome in the front bumper and front grille. You can like the original design of the X7 or not. You can love these large grilles of the X7 or hate them. You can love or hate these upper narrow headlights or these larger but almost invisible lower ones. By the way, I hate them. But there is definitely a sense of the good taste in the way Alpina has treated this car. Just the right dose of everything, just the right tones everywhere. Luxury is not opulence anymore. And here at the back, the same philosophy is applied even to these discrete tailpipes. It's almost like a car produced 30 years ago. And that's not a bad thing. I would rather have these modest looking but outrageously sounding tailpipes than the modern shiny ones that do not sound at all, because the real pipe is somewhere else beneath. Well, in this case, the real pipes are just right here where they appear to be. So let's make a small pause and listen to the sound that comes out from these pipes. So as you can see, there is a rev limiter which prevents us from revving and hearing more. So we should definitely repeat the sound check later in this test while moving. Let's see meanwhile what's there under the bonnet. So it's the renowned BMW 4.4 liter biturbo V8, which has been retuned by Alpina to deliver 621 horsepower and 800 Newton meters. It should be able to accelerate this car from 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds or from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 4.2 seconds. Top speed though is even more impressive. 290 kilometers an hour, but only if you choose 21-inch wheels. There is a mild hybrid system now, which nobody asked for, with an electric motor integrated between the engine and the gearbox, which should boost the responsiveness of the engine. There is a different cooling system here on this Alpina comparing to a standard BMW X7. And cooling is super important on this engine, especially with the added power, because the turbos are located here between the engine blocks of this V8. And there is not much to see with this engine cover. That's why I asked a BMW mechanic to take it out for us and have a better look at the turbos inside. So it seems like turbos are the same as on standard BMW engine. It's a Garrett turbo, actually two turbos of course. As we said, they are located here between the engine blocks, but intercoolers are actually different, larger. So I would say that the additional power comes from engine mapping, different engine mapping, and better cooling, and of course a different boost in the turbos. So there is a new limited slip differential on the rear axle. You can see it here. And Alpina also says that the dampers of the pneumatic suspension are different as well. But we can't check that here because they actually look the same. In the case of differential, you can actually see the difference visually. It's different, it's bigger, and it's reinforced. Well, let's see how all of that feels in driving emotions. Well, this interior is definitely refined, but it doesn't resemble the same level of boldness in changes that Alpina models used to have about 10 years ago. There used to be more strident colors, especially on the wood inserts or even leather, and there is an explanation for that. The interior of the car I drive is actually only slightly modified by Alpina. The leather here is from BMW individual range, as ordering an Alpina leather would require a waiting time of a whole year. Everything is really balanced now, without any strident details, but with a very good taste overall in the ambience of the interior. And actually we have here an interior with 6 seats, given the fact that the second row is an optional one with 2 individual seats. So basically I'm driving a large SUV with space for 6 adults, which is kind of mind-blowing considering that I'm driving an Alpina. So if you're driving with a constant speed, silence is a word to describe the driving feeling. You barely hear any sound from the engine and any sound from the road or non-rolling. Actually, you just float above the ground, above the road. So everything is so smooth and so quiet that you may even forget about the sporty side of this car. So all the ergonomics, all the multimedia system is basically identical to an BMW X7. Only the front side ahead of me has a changed design tailored to Alpina, but Everything else is basically very familiar to BMW fans, everything being absolutely the same. Straight line travel is marvelous in this car. There is a sense of tranquility here that I would say exceeds the one in the GLS and equals the one in the Rolls-Royce Cullinan, although this car feels a bit lighter. And yes, you can't match that feeling of effortless power and refinement in a V12 from a Rolls-Royce, but this V8 gives you the exact amount of drama an Alpina should have. It shouldn't be a Rolls-Royce, it should be more spirited, and it is. Yes, we have to do it, the promised sound check. We will fix a microphone near the tailpipe so you will have a better impression of how an Alpina XB7 sounds from the outside. And the second microphone will be here near the headrest and near my ear, just to give you a better impression of how this engine sound is felt from inside the car. I love this sound, I love this engine even in its original BMW state. And I love what Alpina has done with it. Now I would say I would buy this engine, but maybe in a smaller and lower car, maybe a 5 Series. But let's see some driving and curves. There is an empty forest road ahead, going up for a few kilometers, with a lot of bends. Sounds like the proper place to drive an Alpina, right? Yes, it handles the weight quite well, although it's a 2.6 tons, even a bit more. But you anyway feel that weight, that size of the car. You can avoid, so at least try to avoid the laws of physics here, but you cannot neglect them. But if you are amateur of SUVs, this is definitely one of the most pleasant to drive models you can find on the market. A model where you can have extreme performance yet not sacrificing comfort at all. Just listen to this gorgeous sound of the engine. So then, who is this Alpina XB7 for? So those who need bigger space, definitely, because you have a lot inside this car. So if you're looking for an Alpina which would not be as selfish as a coupe or maybe even as a sedan, and you need the most space you can get, this is the choice. Size is a matter of choice here. The engine though is a masterpiece, even with this mild hybrid system that doesn't make a big difference here. The core of it, that V8 sound that has been refined over and over again, is something that we all, after 20 years, we look at as an epitome of engineering and driving emotions. And we still have it today here. Mercedes-Maybach GLS? Nope. It wanted to look so expensive and shiny that it got to look cheap and ridiculously opulent. Rolls-Royce Cullinan? Well, Alpina is not more refined than Cullinan and not more sumptuous. And it's just right to be that way. You are more discreet here and you don't necessarily have to make a statement just by simply owning or driving it. It is much more a matter of a choice of taste, a good taste. Will this car become a future timeless driving machine? Well, not as much as a limousine would, but considering that it may be very well the only Alpina XB7 generation with this gorgeous V8, it has all the chances to remain as a very special Alpina in the history of the brand. This engine will be absolutely a future timeless legend, and I felt today that I have to relish the moment a bit more. We have only a few more years with these gorgeous engines around, and we will then remember these years and these times like the golden ones for the passion of driving. And this BMW Alpina engine is the absolute definition of passionate driving.